the Bipartisan Policy Center's latest update on the so-called X date. Came out Tuesday morning. And Rachel, what did you find?
Well, we right now are projecting that the United States may find itself in a position where it is unable to make good on all of its obligations. So be able to pay the bills that have come due in full and on time at some point between early June and early August. Now, why this is all significant is because the United States ran up against its debt limit in January, on January 19th. And at that time, Secretary Yellen, Secretary of the Treasury, Yellen, was forced to deploy what are known as extraordinary measures, which really allow her to buy some time, by lawmakers some time to negotiate a path forward on how they address the debt limit. And so here we are a few months later, that those extraordinary measures and cash on hand that the secretary has utilized are drawing down, and she has since notified Congress that it's time to take action. And so here at the Bipartisan Policy Center, we provide objective analysis for policymakers and the public as to when that range of risk really does intensify, when the United States might find itself in a position of a real cash crunch.
Well, I want to get into that because that's really what everybody's hoping doesn't happen. And but then again, we'll have to sort of make some assessments about what might happen. But before we get there, what kind of, without going into too much detail, what kind of calculations go into the BPC's judgment of when we hit that X date?
Yeah, so it's an excellent question, and it's really extensive. But I think what's really neat about our analysis is that we're using all publicly available information. We are coming through the daily financial statements of the Treasury Department that really look at every single agency, what's coming in the door and what's going out. So kind of looking at what those tax revenues are that are coming into the IRS every day, and which programs and services are being paid out to Americans. And so we look at that. We use historical data as well to understand kind of when during the year we see potential changes in revenue and spending. So for example, traditionally, April is always a month where we traditionally bring in more revenues than we do in spending because of tax collection and tax season. But then we see, throughout the summer months, like July and August, for example, are some pretty heavy spending months where a lot of payments and bills are coming due that the United States must meet in full and on time. And so we take all of this data from prior years and then also look at, current economic growth projections that are provided by the Congressional Budget Office, and trying to also anticipate, some of the inherent uncertainty in the economy. We're in a really fragile economy right now, and we're trying to, give a best estimate on where we think revenue and spending patterns might be in just the next few days and weeks, and then of course into the next few months. And so it's with all of this information then that we are able to kind of pinpoint when we think the Treasury Department might draw down those balances, and when there is a risk that when that risk intensifies as to when they might not be able to make good on all of those payments that come due.